Good morning, good evening to all of you joining us today for this amazing conversation that I'm really excited to have with James Cross. Uh, I'm Anna Tavis, Department Chair of Human Capital Management Programs at NYU School of Professional Studies. And we are in Rethinking Work in Practice series, which means we are previewing some of the speakers from the coming Coaching and Technology Summit that we are hosting at NYU Kimmel Center in June, in just a couple of weeks. And for those of us who are going to be there, we're going to have an opportunity to really meet these founders, these creators and innovators face to face, to try their products, that what they're offering us, how they're rethinking coaching, learning, development, training field. But for those of you who are just joining us virtually, this is a great opportunity to learn more about how we are rethinking the entire workplace. So thank you all for joining. I would love for you to mention in the chat where you're calling from. And as an FYI, this is being recorded, and all of you on this call are going to receive a recording link with a summary of this conversation, and we are going to also repost it on our YouTube channel. But at this point, so the ground rules here is that we are going to first have the conversation with James. He's going to show us a little bit of how Tenor works. It's really fascinating and really unique and groundbreaking in a way that you're all going to experience. And then we're going to take a Q&A. There is a special Q&A tab on your lower bar on the screen, and we encourage you to put your questions there. We'll be able to talk to James at the very end and have him answer the questions. So James, I want to welcome you to the webinar. You are now dialing in from San Francisco, I think. Is that correct?
That's right. San Francisco, as you can probably tell, folks, from the accent, not originally from San Francisco, originally from the UK, but I've lived in San Francisco for almost 10 years now. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes, yes. And you're in a much better climate than Northern England, right? Um, what I want to start out with is your journey, because it's kind of symbolic of how the learning and development and training field has evolved, as well as the technology role in HR, in the kind of broader people management domain. So you started out your career as a high school teacher in Northern England. You position yourself right geographically there. Then you moved to somehow, and I would love to know how it happened, to advise the White House on a national workforce skills initiatives, and then spent 8 years as vice president of strategy workforce products at Workday, building the tech infrastructure global enterprises use today. And then from that pinnacle of HR technology, in those days especially, Workday, you took a big leap and became the co-founder and the CEO of Tenor. So can you tell us a little bit about how that progression happened and why?
Definitely. Well, it's been a great journey, and I think the thread I've pulled on throughout my career is just being passionate about like enabling human possibilities with technology. That's what took me to teaching. So I grew up always wanting to be a teacher, always wanted to kind of help people grow and learn. Was, as you mentioned, a high school teacher in the north of England and had a great experience there. And around the time that I qualified to teach, this was in maybe 2005, 2006, online video was starting to take off. And we were starting to see video learning become the next paradigm for how folks would learn. And obviously that's played out in a really powerful way. But back then, it wasn't a technology that was easily usable by institutions. So I was using video a lot in my classroom, did a lot of writing about how to use video effectively as a pedagogical tool. And then actually joined as a founding team member of a company called MediaCore, which was a video learning platform that made it really easy for schools, universities, enterprises to bring video into the learning experiences and manage that media and build learning experiences on top of that. So it was kind of seeing a new technology in my classroom that was powerful and thinking, I want to be part of bringing this to everybody. And that's what took me to MediaCore. Um, and then we grew that company, powered video learning for many of the largest US universities. And then just there after we'd raised our Series A, I was based in Victoria, BC, in Canada at the time, building that company. And Workday wanted to come visit us and meet us. And it turned out that Workday was looking to build a native learning management system as part of the Workday suite. They wanted video and user-generated content and next generation learning to be at the center of that. And they were looking to acquire a team and a company that knew how to build that kind of experience. And so in 2015, we sold that company to Workday. And I came through to Workday as a product strategy leader for Workday Learning, which was a great opportunity to learn how Workday builds products, understand just how to build products at the kind of scale that Workday operates at. And also got to know lots of really great enterprises as well and understand the kind of workforce challenges they were dealing with and how we could build solutions for that. I honestly, when I came to Workday, I thought I'd be there for a year. I thought, like, I'm a startup guy. I'll be back to doing my next thing in a year. But Workday was growing so fast that it was like every 18 months you could have a new cool thing to jump into or launch a new product or have a new role, essentially. So I was at Workday for close to 9 years in total. During that time, as you mentioned, had a chance to collaborate with the White House. There was a skills initiative around building portable credentials and verified skills for American workers in a way that brought together companies like Apple, Microsoft, Workday, and was fortunate to be invited to the White House in the room right next door to the Oval Office, the Roosevelt Room, which was a cool life experience to collaborate with the White House on that project. So that was a career highlight at Workday. And yeah, I think towards the end of my time at Workday was getting the itch increasingly to get back to startup life after 8 years there. Seeing that these new technologies were coming along that could fundamentally change how we enable our people and help them grow. And essentially had that same itch that I had back when I was a teacher, saying this new technology is coming along, I can see the power of it, and I want to bring that to everybody to realize its potential. Saw the same thing with AI, and that's what led us to Tenor. So that's that's the story there. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And I think we can all learn from you about, going in and out of kind of more traditional career path and then taking chances and then always stayed engaged. And I think the energy really, really translates so well to what we're doing here. So, James, tell us a little bit about the Tenor as the name of your company. There's always so much that is packed into the name of the company. You clearly want to send a message.
We do. So naming a company, it's one of the most interesting little parts of the journey early on, picking the right name, because you want to pick something that captures what you do today, but also you want something that's going to encompass what you may do in the future as well. So we wanted something that was high level, abstract, but also we wanted something that speaks to really the fundamentals of what we're doing. And as you'll see today with Tenor, we're all about how people show up in the world. It's about how AI can help you show up as a better worker, a better employee, a better manager, how you communicate, how you show up in those moments that matter. And we like Tenor because it relates to tone. It's about the kind of unspoken parts of communication and how we can essentially use AI to help people become better communicators and better humans. So that's why we landed on Tenor. And it's also a fun process because when you name a startup, it's not just a cool name. You have to think about, is it trademarked? Is there something else in the space? Is it available as a domain name? So that was a really fun process early on, but we're like super happy with the Tenor name. And I think it encapsulates what we do really well.
I do agree with that. And now, as a co-founder of Tenor, you're focusing heavily on voice-based AI simulations. And I know you want to show us a little bit your slides as to what Tenor is about, just to introduce our audience to what your company, and then do a little simulation so that we have a firsthand experience of how it works. And then I have
Yep.
some some challenging questions for you. Okay.
Look forward to those. Definitely. I can share my screen. I've got just a couple of very quick slides just to give you a sense of just how we view the space and how we think about these technologies helping the workforce. And then I'm really excited to jump into a very quick demo where I'll be actually building a simulation and showing how you can prompt one of these simulations and create it as a talent or learning professional. And you'll see me get put through my paces by a virtual AI character that I'll have a difficult conversation with today too. So first, I'll just share my slides. Um, so just a very quick introduction. I think we've covered some of these pieces already, but we are the AI for Workforce Excellence, founded in 2023. So that means that we're AI native. We've been around for as long as LLMs, large language modules, and voice AI has been around. So we're able to really build from a clean sheet of paper as we do this. Headquartered in San Francisco, but we have amazing folks all over the US on the team. And really why we're doing what we're doing is that we think it's the most exciting time ever in workforce development, how we enable our people. And when I speak to talent and learning leaders at large organizations, there's this sense that they know what works and they've wanted to do more of it for a long time, but there's been natural constraints there. So we know that role plays work really well, but often they're just awkward experiences you have maybe with a peer or a colleague as a one-off experience that sometimes doesn't translate very well to the real world when you go back into it. We know that one-off programs are great. Lots of companies will fly in their managers and folks for annual or onboarding conferences and experiences, and they're amazing for building culture and connection and making people feel part of the community of the company. But they often don't translate super well to 6 months down the line when that person needs to go have a difficult conversation or deliver a message to their team or communicate that. And we, of course, also know that executive coaching works really well. I've been fortunate to have worked with a really great executive coach at some critical points throughout my career and really believe in that model and think it's incredibly powerful. The challenge is that just given the constraints of that, it doesn't scale particularly well. And it's something that previously has only been available to a select part of organizations. So we don't think that goes away, but we do think there are opportunities to bring these approaches to everybody in a new way. And that's really why we're so excited about this technology. Almost overnight, we can now bring these different interventions and coaching experiences to everybody at an organization in a way that scales really effectively, that's ongoing, and has that spaced repetition and spaced learning that we know is just so important for growth and skill development. And also that is a lot more cost effective than delivering these through the previous ways that we've done them. So almost overnight, there's this kind of latent demand to do more of what's working. And that's really what we can do now that we couldn't maybe 18 months back. So you'll see more of that today. And just to give you a very quick sense of how we see this coming together, all of this is integrated, but we believe practice is core. So we think that spaced learning and skill development and getting the repetitions in is really important. So we have the ability to build very realistic practice simulations. Then we have the ability also to have more open-ended coaching conversations through Slack, through Teams, through voice in the flow of work, guided by context from systems like Workday and other enterprise systems. And as people go through both the practice and the coaching, it's also reinforcing a company's playbooks and best practices for how folks should be showing up in those moments. So one reason I love this is it's helping the individual kind of get better and develop their skills and be a more effective communicator and more effective leader. But it's also helping the folks sitting in headquarters to know that their playbook's being followed and the best practices being followed, and to see analytics around that too. So lots of interesting technology things that you'll see in the bottom here as well that play into this. But we're big believers in voice AI as one of the ways that it's most impactful to interact with this technology. And then over on the right-hand side, just very important right now to think about the safety and ethics of enterprise AI as well. And I think a really cool thing about this time is we're seeing enterprise learning teams and talent and HR teams actually be at the forefront of bringing these really powerful technologies to their organization. So that means sometimes you've got folks in learning or talent who are having to work with their like legal teams or having to work with their security teams. Some organizations will actually have AI review boards now internally to review any AI use inside of the company. And so it's just really important for any talent or learning folks to think about this ahead of time and build partnerships with those folks internally and help them understand the value of what you're trying to do as you bring those technologies into. And then just briefly, before we jump into the demo itself, just wanted to give a sense of some of the top use cases that we see for these kinds of technologies. So I won't talk through every piece here, but I'll just talk through three key ways that we see this technology being used. The first is where you have existing programs. So new manager programs, onboarding programs, preparation programs for specific moments at the company. You can just layer on simulations and coaching onto those, build on the work you're already doing, and make those programs more effective in terms of real world learning and impact. The second way we see these technologies being used really effectively is where you have some kind of a change moment across the organization, whether it's a reorganization, a re-architecture, return to office for some folks, maybe rolling out a different compensation model. Anytime that you know a good chunk of your folks are having difficult conversations around the same time, and you want to really be there for them and provide them some enablement for that, that's a really effective use of these technologies too. And also the third way is just giving people on-demand access to coaching and to role plays, especially for earlier career managers that maybe are encountering situations that are new to them. That's a really powerful way too. So they're the three ways we see this technology being used. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing this screen and share my browser and give you a very brief demo of building a voice simulation. So this is my favorite part. I'll jump into the library here. So there's obviously a lot to the whole Tenor platform that we don't have time to go into today. So I'm going to show you one very thin slice of it. And I'll jump into the scenario library here. Now, we have over 250 different simulations. We have an amazing learning designer on staff who's our resident AI wrangler, and builds out these simulations for our customers and builds out the library. Everything is customizable. We work with large enterprises predominantly that have their own kind of culture and context and best practices and frameworks. So we bring all of that in, and everything is infused with that. And you can even customize which roles see which role plays based on data from HRIS, for example. But what I wanted to show today is how to build a scenario from scratch. And we've built a lot of technology on the back end to make this super quick and easy to do. So once you know what you're doing, you can do this in 5 to 10 minutes and then get a very high quality role play in front of your people in the right moment. So I'm going to pick a character. We'll pick the first one and I can preview his voice.
Hello and welcome to Tenor.
Then I'm going to say that he's Josh. And we're going to go create a role play very quickly that you can see me then walk through. So I'll say that he is a marketing manager. Click on next. And then I can specify how Josh relates to me. In this case, he's going to be my direct report, but we have different organizational relationships. And also one of our more popular use cases is for folks who may be at the senior manager director level, training them to actually communicate upwards and communicate effectively with executives. And we also have customer-facing personas too, for any customer service or customer-facing interactions, for instance, maybe in the retail world or call centers. But today we'll focus on a manager use case. And then we get to the fun part. This is where we get to design the character that we're going to speak to in just a moment. And I'm kind of thinking ahead here to the learning goal I want the manager to get from this. So in this case, we're going to be telling Josh today that even though he's been a good performer, we didn't have the budget this time around to give him a raise or a promotion. So he's going to be disappointed. It's a difficult conversation, especially for a newer manager. And partly for your entertainment and partly because we want to make this a really great learning experience, I'm going to make him a pretty extreme guy. So I want him to put me through my paces. I want him to ask some tricky questions. And I also want him to maybe make me feel a little bit bad about communicating this news to him so that I can really get good at just staying grounded in the moment and being effective at communicating the news. So I'm going to make him extremely reactive, extremely assertive. We'll leave him fairly neutral on the happiness scale just because he's coming into this conversation not sure what to expect today. And given that it's a compensation conversation with his manager, you can probably guess that I'm going to slide the anxiety scale up to the maximum there. Now, I'm making this a bit more extreme than we typically would do in a real enterprise situation, but I really wanted you to see today just how like emotive the characters can be. So he's definitely going to put me through my paces in just a moment. And then I'll just outline a personality for Josh. So I'm creating a bit of a backstory for the character. And again, here I'm thinking through the learning goal I want the manager to get from this simulation. So I don't want him to go easy on me. I want him to ask some tricky questions about the process. I want him to really dig into the reasoning so that I can get practice thinking on my feet and explaining that to him. So I've said here that Josh is a longtime employee. He's one of our mid-level performers. He's a solid member of the team, but he's not one of the rock stars that we're maybe going to be differentiating for this year in terms of compensation from our limited budget. So that's leading to this situation. And I've also said here that he values transparency in compensation discussions and he wants detailed explanations. So again, just building towards that learning goal. And I'll add in just an extra detail for fun. I'll say he compares himself to his peers when it comes to pay and promotions, like most people do. So created a very quick prompt here. You can get very detailed with this. And we actually offer a prompting workshop for learning professionals that you can join and learn our tricks and tips for prompting. So I'll share that link a little later in the follow-up. But that's a very quick prompt. And now I'll just say that put in the situation. In this case, it is annual performance and compensation conversation. Company has shifted its strategy. Budgets are lower this year. He's not getting an increase, but he's expecting one because he's had one every other year. And then I outline my business goal, which is to communicate the news, explain the reasoning, and reassure him of his value at the company. So some very quick prompts there. And just for time, I'll skip ahead and click on start practice. So right now it's generating the character Josh that I've just created. And I get to jump in now and have that conversation with him and see him put me through my paces. And as I do this, just get a sense of just how far the voice technology has come. We've put a lot of investment into the responsiveness of the voice. So you'll see me have to think on my feet as I do this. And then afterwards, when we jump out, I'll show you how it relates into real grounded feedback. So I'll bring up Josh and have that quick chat.
Hey, James.
Hey, Josh. Happy Thursday. Good to see you. How is your week going so far?
Honestly, James, I'm just kind of anxious about this meeting, to be real with you. I'm assuming we're getting into comp stuff, right? My week's basically been me thinking about this conversation, so let's not beat around the bush. Can you just tell me what's happening with my comp this year?
Sure, Josh. Happy to jump straight into things. I'm sorry to hear you're feeling anxious. What's kind of top of mind when it comes to this conversation today?
What's top of mind? My pay. Like, I do solid work, I see the numbers, I know what people on my level are earning, and I contribute just as much, sometimes more. Last year I got an increase, year before that too, so I'm expecting the same thing, or honestly a little more this time, given everything I've handled. Are you telling me that's not happening? Because I need to understand exactly where I stand and why.
Well, Josh, I can sense this is obviously very important to you, so want to dive into this today. First, I just wanted to thank you for your contributions. I've heard great things about the projects you've been involved in this year. You're a very valued member of the team, so I just wanted to thank you for that first up.
Okay, thanks, but with all due respect, I'm not looking for a pat on the back right now, James. I want clarity. I want specifics. If there's something holding back my increase, I need to know exactly what it is. And if it's just some company-wide thing, then I want transparency about how decisions are being made. I'm not here for generic appreciation. I'm here to talk about what matters to me. So can we get to the point? Am I getting an increase this year or not?
Yeah, well, understand that, Josh. As you know, budgets are a bit lower this year. The company's doing well, but I advocated for you. We just couldn't make that raise or that promotion happen this time around. And I know that's really disappointing news to hear, Josh.
Wait, so let me get this straight. I'm not getting a raise at all? Nothing? Even though you just said I'm a valued member of the team and I've done good work? What about everyone else at my level? Are they all getting zero too, or am I the only one left out here? Because honestly, this doesn't make sense to me and it feels pretty unfair. I've busted my ass all year and now it's just what? Sorry, maybe next year?
Well, Josh, hopefully we can address it in the mid-years or in the next cycle. And I think even if we can't give you that raise right now, there are other ways we can help you build your skills, help you build your career this year too. And I'll be here for you to help you do that.
I'm going to be real with you here. Building skills does not pay my bills. I get the whole development opportunity line. But after years of steady increases, this just feels like a slap in the face. People don't stick around when companies pull this. I have to look out for myself. Is this just a one-time thing, or should I start assuming this is going to be happening every year now? I need straight answers.
So I'll pause that there. You can probably see me blushing a little. I've done this hundreds of times, and I still get nervous because the characters really make you think on your feet. They're not just responsive, but they're also persuasive. And when I tried to give him some hand-wavy, vague answers there, and maybe just come back to it being the budget or some externalities, he was really pushing back in the moment. And you can also see how the inputs I gave it at the start, how I told him to be like more assertive, to push back if he felt like he wasn't being listened to. You can see how that showed up in the conversation. And when it comes to how the characters show up, there's obviously a lot of nuance we can build in there. And for every one of our customers, we also build in guardrails for how they show up, whether it's maybe somebody who's working in a more of a frontline environment compared to more, maybe office-based professional environments. Lots of different ways that we can tweak how the characters show up there. But hopefully that gives you a sense of just how realistic the characters can be in that moment. And then we get the feedback, which is where a lot of the learning happens. So this is out of the box feedback. In reality, we can automatically tailor the feedback so that it is kind of reinforcing your best practices. And if I jump into tips here, this is my favorite screen because it shows me the conversation I just had with the character, and it shows me a summary of the most important pieces of feedback. So I got a warning here quite early on that I gave some very generic praise, which is accurate. I just said, you've done a great job this year, you've great projects. If it was a performance review, I obviously could have done a much more specific job at diving into the details of what had gone well and what had seen when I offered that appreciation. And I got another tip here later on for really not giving him, not engaging with his reaction there. I think I basically just hand waved and said maybe next year, which obviously wasn't what he needed to hear in the moment there. And what I love about this is it's this kind of perfect experiential learning experience where you have this very emotive experience that pulls you into it and feels very realistic. Then you get immediate feedback that reinforces how your organization wants you to be handling that conversation and their best practices and playbooks. And then you get to go do it again and see how you improve on those pieces. So it's just this really compact, nice learning experience that we see really helps people kind of move forward in their confidence and ability to have these conversations. Didn't see it just now. I think I clicked out of it. But after every conversation, you get a little pop-up, and that pop-up asks you, do you now feel more confident having this conversation in the real world after this experience? And we find that around 85% of all of our universe of customers and employees that go through these experiences say that they either agree or strongly agree that they now feel more confident having these conversations in the real world. So we're able to collect really great feedback and really great kind of value from that in that confidence in the real world. So hopefully that gave you a good sense of things. I'll pause there and stop sharing screens and we can jump back to the discussion. But hopefully that gave you a good sense of just what's possible with this technology now and how we think about this space as Tenor.
That was amazing. I was following the commentary in the chat, James, and quite a few people commented that that was a little aggressive. But, as a manager myself, having been through these conversations, we know that it's better to be over-prepared for a conversation such as this one because they do happen. They do happen.
They do.
Especially now. I think it will be helpful not only in the workplace, but I'm thinking about the educational environment when, we have very empowered learners right now who, bring out their issues, and it applies to educators, to trainers, coaches, etc. These conversations need to happen. So very impressive. You kind of combine both the voice and the text, right? I think that anyone who's working in these kind of multimedia environments would think, why not just text? A lot of chatbots just stay on the text level, and you are doing the text, the voice, which is difficult because you have to find the right accent, the right tone. How does that happen?
Yeah, so we've built a lot of infrastructure on the back end to make that magic happen. You can see he was extremely responsive there, like barely less than a second between responses. And we think that's powerful because it makes you really think on your feet. We do have the ability with our AI coach to be more text driven if you're interacting with it through Slack or Teams, for example. But for the simulations, we really believe in voice because it's not just the words you use, it's also how you show up and how you regulate your own nervous system as you're in these moments. And that's almost as big a part of the learning as actually the words that you use. So I think that's why I believe in voice. And we've just built a lot of infrastructure, and the voice technology gets better week over week. So we're constantly having to keep on top of the latest and greatest and bring that to the platform too.
Yeah, amazing. And that is, the evolution of technology here. Do you expect to be using some video or other medium that will, you'll have kind of an image there, but do you think a video will be distracting?
Right now, we think it is a little distracting. We're constantly prototyping every video generation technology that's out there for these kind of real-time avatars. We don't think it's quite there yet for two reasons. One is that it's in that kind of uncanny valley right now where it's a little distracting. And there's something about the character on screen kind of moving around and looking at you that is a little off-putting right now. The other piece is just some of the better versions of the technology just aren't ready for enterprise scale yet in terms of just the infrastructure. So the moment we think it's ready, we're ready to get it into the platform very quickly. But right now, we want to wait until it's perfect, and we think it really adds to the experience.
Another question I have, and now we have also some questions in the Q&A tab here, is about integration. So this is, I know that you are integrating with Microsoft Teams, you're integrating with Slack. How does that work?
Definitely. So with Teams and Slack, we can allow people to access AI coaching through those systems, but we can also give them proactive nudges as well. So when we know that something happens, when one of those moments that matter comes up in the HR life cycle or in the talent life cycle, when a new team member joins, we can actually reach out to them in that moment when they're most receptive to this kind of intervention with the right simulation or the right coaching nudge. So that's how that works. We also have deep integrations into HRIS systems like Workday, SuccessFactors, and others. That lets us pull through organizational data. That helps with reporting. So it helps you slice and dice, like how are my people in New York kind of using the platform? But it also lets us pull through context that helps us provide better coaching. So has somebody new joined my team? Has there been a reorg? How long have I been at the company? What role am I in? We can actually infer all of that and bring that rich data through and use that to drive the coaching and the role plays in a really cool way. Yeah.
And that is a real important point to make because of what I know about Tenor, the level of integration and customization to the company culture is really important to you, that it needs to feel authentic to the people within that organization, to the culture. So what does it take? For example, if you come to NYU and we bring you in to help us, working with students, let's say, you're going to be integrating into the higher ed culture as opposed to a startup environment where this could be used for performance management purposes.
Yep. So we've actually built a lot of AI tools that help us bring that context in really easily. So typically we can deploy in kind of 3 to 4 weeks and have it live because we've built a lot of that tooling in. And we have a lot of experience with this. We work with like large technology companies. We work with large retailers that have like very large frontline workforces. We have higher education institutions using it for things like their admissions counselors to help counsel students through financial aid that's available to them. So we've built the system to let us very quickly bring in that context and very quickly kind of get it in front of people. So we've kind of built it with that from the start, that customization.
This is really cool. Another question here that came up, if you have use cases in selection process, for selection in the, I guess, corporate environment, Belinda's question here about specifically selection.
Would that be, do you think, for like kind of interview training, that kind of
Yes, like interview, for example, in the recruitment process or promotion decisions, and you have those types of conversations because what you chose was compensation conversation that's most sensitive to employees. But in the selection process, like you have the final candidates, and you need to practice for train your selection committee on the how they're interviewing. That's a lack of skill in that area is a real deficit for a lot of companies.
Totally, and it's also it's a great use case because it's also somewhere where you need to have consistency across interviewers, making sure they're following your framework for the interviews. That's actually a really good use case for this kind of technology. You can even build out. I didn't show it today. I just showed the general feedback, but you can build out very specific. We call them scorecards, where if you have a rubric for how you want people to approach those conversations, you can actually grade them against that rubric at the end of the conversation and get analytics to see of all of the people across the company who've practiced our interview training, how many of them are doing well on the different parts of the framework, and where do we need to provide some extra support. So that's a really great use case.
Really interesting. Another question from Professor Lipsky here. If this a role play stresses out the user and they need support, HR, ER, EPA, whatever, how does this work in the Tenor system?
Yeah, good question. First of all, I put myself in a purposely very stressful situation there. I created that to just show how emotive it can be. It's very rare that the character would push back in that way. But we have a few safeguards in place. One is that we have a kind of quality assurance agent that goes back and reviews every conversation that happens. It's looking for a few things. Did the user try to do something they shouldn't? Did they try and jailbreak the character or something, or try and push the boundaries, or say something unsafe? It's also looking for anything where a traditional coach would have a duty of care to report it, like threats of harm, those sorts of things. And it's able to, or any signs of bias as well. And then we're able to bring that back to the employer if we spot those things. We also have the ability in the AI coach to specify off-limits topics. And there are naturally going to be some topics and areas that you just don't want people talking to an AI coach about for legal reasons, for ethical reasons, for policy reasons. You can set those up. And if the conversation strays into those areas, the coach will gently say, hey, we can't discuss this here, but you should go to maybe your manager or your HR team to go discuss that. So we've built in just a lot of guardrails around that kind of ethics and trust and safety across the platform.
Very important, and the question always comes up around ethics and the guardrails that you mentioned. Obviously, we have quite a few coaches on this call here. I see Susan is asking a very good question that we all ask these days. What makes it coaching? What kind of framework? Why is it not training, advising, or any other types of support to managers? What makes it coaching, you think?
Definitely. I think it really, just because it's a new technology paradigm, it definitely blurs the lines between kind of training and coaching. In the use case I just showed, that's more on the training side. I think that's where, as a company, you've got a playbook and a framework, and you want people to practice against that and get feedback against that. What we didn't show today is our more open-ended AI coach. And that's where it's going to have more of a natural back and forth with you. It's going to gently nudge you. It's going to recognize patterns that are happening over time in conversations you've had with it across your team members. And it's going to have that context and memory that a really good coach would do. So I didn't have time to show it today, but the more coachy side, if you will, of Tenor is the AI coach that integrates with Slack and Teams. Again, since we have many coaches on the call, like we don't think that human coaching goes away. I still have an executive coach that I adore and is super helpful. But I also use AI as well for those moments in between. And we think that's what it looks like, in addition to being able to scale these opportunities to just more bigger parts of the workforce.
And I think what I value, and this is an excellent question here about how technology kind of adds to the more traditional coaching, is the access to a great amount of data across different domains that a live coach just doesn't have access to. And I think that's been a limitation of human coaching, and that is, again, the ability to consolidate and the instances of patterns across different manifestations of these types of dialogues. And I loved the readout that you had and then recommendations. How, at the organizational level, there are really good questions here. At the organizational level, let's say you're using this in a performance management scenario. Will I, as the VP, have access to a generalized readout on the data and say, here's how, your managers at this crucial time when compensation conversations happen, handle this? Because there is a kind of a rating, competent, needs work, or I don't know what the scale is. But as an leader of this multi-team organization, will I be able to say, like, here's the heat map of where we are on these skill level in these types of conversations?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. We did have to be very mindful here and tread that balance well because we want it to be a safe space where people can come practice, get coaching without feeling like somebody's looking over their shoulder, seeing every word they say to the coach. We had to have the right guardrails to ensure safety. But also we know that leaders at large organizations need to see analytics. How are people using it? Are people using it? How are skills growing over time? Being able to slice and dice that by different parts of the workforce, being able to dive into specific skill growth. So that's exactly how we've done it, that kind of aggregated heat map approach, where you can see how skills are developing for certain parts of the workforce and get analytics on that. We have a lot of permissions that we can build in. There are some use cases where you actually will want to see the words that were spoken or a specific score. For instance, if it's a sales training program and somebody needs to kind of test out of that by showing they can deliver your pitch effectively, we have the option to include that. But we always make it very clear to the user exactly what will be shared after the experience. So we always make that extremely clear in the UX. And our default is that the words you say are private, but analytics around skill development in an aggregated way will be shared internally. Yep.
Okay, all right. Lots of questions about coaching, obviously. Just the last one, since there are a lot of ICF certified coaches, if you are using those frameworks at all, or any other frameworks in how you train your system on the what kind of coaching frameworks?
Yeah, so we don't use any particular framework to drive the coaching. It's typically driven more by best practices and playbooks from a particular organization. So we don't use any of those external frameworks, but it will be if we go into maybe a large retailer and they obviously have their playbooks and frameworks for how should a store manager be working with their team. We're drawing from that more than any specific kind of coaching methodology. So it's very pragmatic in that way.
Okay, that sounds great. So what's next, James? Like, yeah, how do you envision this technology being used, applied, scaled across multiple organizations?
Definitely. So our big focus right now is just bringing this really great technology to more organizations and helping them just see the benefits of it and the impact of it. We think the technology just keeps improving week over week on the AI side, whether it's like video avatars, whether it's been able to pull in more broad context to drive that coaching, just bringing in more personalization, tying into the flow of work. And also just looking into the broader future, like we know that the world of the manager is going to change. If you look at just the impact that AI is having right now. So the big question is, how can we, being embedded at that kind of management and coaching layer, start to be part of those changes and help people adapt to what's going to be happening in the manager world too. So really exciting time now, but I think things get really interesting in the next few years as the shape of the organization starts to change. And we think being embedded at that kind of manager and coaching layer is a really impactful place to be to support people through those changes in some way.
And from what I'm hearing, you're not planning to replace managers with the bots, right?
No, one thing I love about this is we hear so many like media scare stories about AI disrupting the workforce and managers going away. We love that that same technology can help you be a better manager and be a better human. And we think that becomes those human touch points and human connections become so much more important in the post-AI world. And we love that AI can help you actually be a better human in the workplace. Yeah.
Yeah, that's our position at NYU as well. We embrace technology, but at the same time, we feel that there's going to be a lot more need for life coaches who are going to be able to scale their presence and their support to many more people because technology is going to take care of some of the mundane and support functions for the coaching that takes place. James, this was amazing. We're looking forward to welcoming you at NYU in just a couple of weeks. Here are a few more webinars we're going to have in preparation for our annual summit. And we definitely hope to see quite a few of you at NYU on June 15th, 16th. And James is going to be there with his team. We're going to be able to have further conversations about how we're going to be using these tools with the humans in the center. I think that is a message that we are really committing to. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon. And you are going to be receiving the transcript and recording of this webinar, and hopefully we will see you in New York. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you so much.
everyone. Bye-bye.